Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Spoiler Warning from the Is It Isekai podcast. This is your host, Jim Jam, one half of the podcast host duo here today to talk about a series, as you can see behind me. Once this is done here, it is the Apothecary Diaries. I recently just caught up on the first two seasons of this anime, and I wanted to go ahead and just spoil it for you guys now because it's been a couple years since the first season came out. So I'm going to talk about mostly the first season, as this is kind of newer to me, and the second season just kind of builds on the, as it does, builds on the first season. Not too much craziness going on. The first season is great because it builds up the character Mao Mao, and we see her getting a better job, in my opinion, than what she would have gotten before. If you guys don't know what's going on here, let me back up a little bit. Spoiler warning episodes are a little bit longer than the previews of the new seasons of what we do here at Is It Isekai, and I just want to go over what I thought of the whole season after it's done. So I'm going to do that for you now. Going to be lots of spoilers, so that's why it's called Spoiler Warning, so thusly named. Let's just be absolutely clear what we're doing here. We're spoiling all the things for you. Well, like 90% of them. So we want to put that spoiler warning out there for people. If you have not watched it and you care about spoilers and you have a big old stink about that, then you should not watch this. This is not the episode for you. Okay? All right. There you go. You've been thusly forewarned. Okay. Mao Mao is the main character of this. It's very much based in the Chinese history of the emperors and concubines and the kingdoms here. A lot of what we see, even though this is a Japanese anime, I don't know where the animation studio is from, but they're definitely speaking Japanese. But everybody's got a Chinese name. And Mao Mao's the main character. She's an apothecary, as you see here, as Apothecary Diaries. So we're going over from her perspective of what is going on. The first season sees her as one of the concubines, the main emperor's concubines' aides, that she's helping with everything, and then she gets kidnapped, but nobody knows that she's actually an apothecary. That comes out as she's doing her duties, which is interesting because she got kidnapped and sold down the street. You would think it'd be taken to a different land or anything, but everybody's just kind of like, oh yeah, people sell people as slaves and they get bought to go work down the street, which is interesting. So you got kidnapped from one street, and a block away you're sold and you're working, which is interesting. But you're inside the castle walls there, so you can't go back to your homeland. Well, yeah, okay. But luckily for Mao Mao, she was adopted by an apothecary, and he taught her all his skills. Apparently, he was a really good apothecary, and a little bit later, we'll find out what happens to him. But she got adopted from a brothel. She was born in a brothel, and the apothecary adopted her and lives a little bit away from it was like on the other side of the main street or whatever. It's very interesting. But she was raised by the horse, the employees of the brothel, and learns about her skills, and also we can see that she has a bit of fascination with the apothecary stuff, the medicines, and especially poisons. We find out later in the season that she is infatuated with poisons, gets turned on by being poisoned, but she poisons herself on a regular basis, builds up immunity to low-level poisons, and also enjoys poisoning herself. I don't even know what that's called. What is that? Turned on by something. The philia. What philia is that? I'm trying to think in my head. What does the DSM label that as? I got to look that one up. Didn't think about that before I did this episode. But yeah, that's the kind of interesting thing. Yeah, so that's a type of masochism. Yeah, getting poisoned, being in pain, ingesting all kinds of different things to test out what is good for you and what isn't. Which, by the way, is a quirk of hers, but it does help her in her duties as an apothecary, because of course they make all kinds of potions and do all kinds of things. Although her apothecary skills kind of drift over into actual medicine, because she's helping people heal from injuries and stuff too. But there's all kinds of ointments and stuff that you can do there. Not going to get too much into the medical stuff here as far as this review is concerned, because that kind of stuff kind of goes over my head. But I get it. Apothecary, yes, you make potions and you help people, and also like you're a little bit of a nutritionist and all those different kind of things too, which is okay. Yeah, but it's great to see that she's very passionate about what she's doing, and then also she becomes a taste tester for the second head concubine. Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. And then being the taste tester of the concubine or the precious consort, one of the main consorts of the emperor. Boy, there's a bit of history that can go down here. For those that don't know about Chinese history, the emperor had an empress, queen or whatever, but he also had like concubines that everybody knew about, and they were also like high. I don't know if they were higher than the nobles, but they had a high position, and they had to do their duty of bearing the emperor's children. And if you couldn't do that, or lo and behold, the emperor couldn't do that, they would still get blamed. So it was like a rotating cast of people, women. Yeah, I'm not going to get too much into that, but it was just an interesting time back in the eras there. And this anime does a great job of trying to break it down for you. So that part I'm not going to spoil. I'll let the anime do it more. I'm not a huge history buff, but I do know about this particular era just from like different shows that are historical shows. I just really like the fact that Mao Mao is a female apothecary, one, and then also she's very well respected by turns out he's emperor's brother. Spoiling that part. But everybody seems to respect her, and it's funny that the emperor's brother is really hot, and all of the women in the back part of the palace like are infatuated with him, even to the detriment of some of the consorts, which is not good for them. But Mao Mao is like disgusted with how hot he is, and is like just gives him the wrong reaction that he is like never had before, but then that makes him want her even more. That whole dynamic is fascinating to me and hilarious. Oh goodness. So we'll talk more about that. But in general, the one thing I'll say about the history is the women, it's supposed to be all women back there, but there are males, but they are eunuchs. If people don't know what a eunuch is, just a little snip. Mew Nicky. Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean reference. Yeah, they have their parts removed, so not to get tempted by all the pretty women back there and stuff with them. So you are to assume every male back there has been eunuched, as to say. So that makes Mao Mao and the prince's brother is Jinshi even more interesting, because there's not quite all that 100% going on and policies followed, which is very interesting. But I digress. It is cool to see the backstory about all of this going on in the palace walls. So we get to see all those hierarchies and the relationships that are going on in the day-to-day of Mao Mao's life. And in the second season, she actually moves into Jinshi's building outside of the back of the palace. So she becomes less of a consort's aide and becomes the Jinshi's aide, the head guy in charge of everybody back there. Very interesting. And then we have Jinshi's aide, Gao Shan, that kind of puts up with Jinshi's stuff. That dynamic is funny as well, because I guess Gao Shan has kids, but he's a eunuch. I guess that happened after he had kids. Never really say about that. But his whole demeanor is interesting, and also the palace guards, the soldiers and stuff, those dynamics that happen between them and Mao Mao is interesting as well, because everybody kind of knows she has really good skills, and also the fact that she was raised in a brothel. She has inside track with the employees there as well, so that helps her out with all the men's that are around her, which is very interesting. And then also Mao's patience with the ladies that kind of hate on her, the haters. Those dynamics. So she's helping the consorts survive in one particular case, and everybody's hating on her for it. So it's like, what is up with that? Why are you doing this? Very much looking forward to season 3. Hopefully some of them get their due processes. I know one did in this last season, which was interesting to see. And it's like, okay. So I'm missing a little bit of details here with the whole dynamic of how the palace is ran, because there's a whole thing with the hairpins, and I didn't really want to look up history as to the significance of hairpins, but there's one point where she gets like 3 hairpins and everybody's like, oh my goodness, what is that? And it's like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on there, but that's pretty cool to see what that deal is. And then also like the makeup thing, everything's very aesthetic forward. As far as that's concerned, we learned that Mao has been putting freckles on her face to make herself look uglier, which is interesting. And then the fact that she can uglify Jinshi so he can like stroll around the city space without an issue is also interesting as well. So all in all, I like the history because I don't know the history. So that's pretty funny as far as that's concerned. So it makes it a great show, in my opinion. When it's very historical from the stuff I do know, makes me assume a little bit. And then also the stuff that I don't know about, we're talking about you, hairpins, about the history of the this particular era in China and this particular emperor and palace, what's going on and stuff like that. I would like to, at some point, once this is all over, probably a long time from now, go back and see if like Jinshi was actually the brother of the emperor and he was in charge of the back of the palace area. That'd be a cool little thing. And was he like the hottest guy ever? That's fascinating. It's also good to see like the women infatuated with him. Yeah, that's a little bit turnaround, reversing of the roles there. I was going to say a different reverse word, but I didn't. Okay, so that's all for now. I think I was going to do 15 or so minutes, 10. I can't remember the timing now, but we'll keep it shorter today. Not too much going on here as far as the Apothecary Diaries. It's more like a slice of life type deal. Not a whole lot of action going on, except for Mao saving people. And then, her parents too. That's kind of messed up. I'm not going to go into the details there. But as you can probably guess, her mother is an employee of the brothel, and her dad is there still somewhat. Sure, we'll go with that. This kind of messed up, makes me kind of sad, but at least she knows the truth about everything towards the end of the second season. So at least that's a good point. It's not like she didn't know who her parents were, but the man that raised her is actually her father. And we come to find out that he used to work in the back of the palace as well, and he is a eunuch. So that part was really confusing until you realize, that's her adopted father. Interesting. I would love to know exactly what his story was, not just what they gave us. They told us kind of what happened, but it's like, okay, that's kind of a thing, but dang, that's a harsh punishment for not really not doing anything. So it's kind of messed up. And I also would love to see which consort ends up being the one that gets the next prince or emperor. The one that actually bears the emperor's son. Who wins in the end? I don't know how that works out. I guess you're happy if the princes you bear the next prince, soon to be emperor, that's there. Yeah, and the whole thing with the age thing, okay, we're not going to get into that kind of stuff. Is that's how they did it back then. Where I'm not, I hear the ages and I kind of like, I'm not gonna pay attention to that. Sure, that was a thing, as we know. In this time of this was hundreds of years ago. So stuff happened back then, and stepmoms, then moms, then things, sure, whatever. But all in all, a great anime. I gave it a 10 out of 12 pills, makeup things, protein pills that make you feel better. Sure, we'll get with that. But anyways, we have a podcast. It's called Is It Isekai? It is on most streaming platforms, podcast streaming platforms. Most of the time we have new episodes on Tuesdays. We'll try it. We were doing well in October. We got to pick it back up, but we'll pick it back up soon at some point. So don't hold your breath for too long, because there'll be new episodes out. But this is Jim Jam, and that's all I got to say. Spoiler warning. Bye for now.